Jasmine Monroe slid down the peeling wallpaper of her narrow hallway, the eviction notice crumpling in her shaking fist. She counted the coins scattered across the stained carpet for the fifth time. $14.37. The number didn't change. It never did. 5 days. That's all the landlord had given her. 5 days to find $1,200 in back rent or be thrown onto the street. Outside, lightning split the sky so violently the entire apartment building shuddered. Rain hammered against the thin walls like bullets. Atlanta had never seen a storm this fierce. Jasmine stared at the empty refrigerator, its broken light fixture casting no glow into the barren interior. 1 carton of eggs, 3 left. A half-empty jar of peanut butter. 2 packets of ramen. Her stomach twisted with hunger, but she'd learned to ignore it over the past 8 weeks. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Another automated reminder from Mercy General Care Facility. Aunt Claudia's dialysis treatment was 3 weeks overdue. The balance flashed across the cracked screen. $8,400. 3 months ago, Jasmine had been fired from her housekeeping job at the Riverside Hotel. Restructuring, the manager had said, refusing to meet her eyes. 6 years of perfect attendance meant nothing. Since then, she'd applied to 62 positions. Not a single call back. Her aunt needed $340 worth of medication every month just to stay alive. Jasmine had sold everything of value. Her mother's jeweler box, her father's old watch, the television, even the winter coat that had belonged to her grandmother. Aunt Claudia had raised her alone after the car accident took both her parents when Jasmine was 9. Working double shifts at the garment factory, fingers bleeding from the machines, just so her niece could have school supplies and birthday cakes and a future. Now she was 63, her kidneys failing, and Jasmine couldn't even afford to keep her comfortable. The guilt was a living thing, gnawing at her ribs every waking moment. Then came the knock. Sharp, urgent, desperate. Jasmine froze. It was nearly midnight. This neighborhood wasn't safe after dark. Everyone knew that. 3 break-ins on this block in the past month alone. She crept to the door, pulse hammering in her throat. Through the peephole, she saw a man. Tall, broad-shouldered, drenched from the rain. His white dress shirt clung to his muscular frame, nearly transparent with water. And on his neck, visible even through the distorted glass, were tattoos. Dark, intricate tattoos that crawled up from his collar. But that wasn't what made Jasmine's breath catch. In his arms was a child. A little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old, wrapped in a soaked blanket. Her small face was flushed an alarming red. Her lips were pale. Her eyes were closed. And her head lolled against the man's shoulder with the terrifying limpness of unconsciousness. Every survival instinct Jasmine possessed screamed at her. Danger. Stranger. Midnight. Tattoos.
Run.
But Jasmine had grown up watching Aunt Claudia tend to sick neighbors when they couldn't afford doctors. That child's skin was too red. Her breathing too shallow. High fever. Possibly seizures coming. Jasmine's hand was on the deadbolt before her mind could catch up. She opened the door, and her life changed forever. Stop right there. I see you. You're hooked, aren't you? Your heart's racing. You need to know what happens when she opens that door. But here's what's going to happen if you don't subscribe right now. You'll watch this whole story. You'll cry. You'll feel everything. And then you'll scroll away and forget. And in 2 weeks, when I post the story about the veteran who saved a child from a burning building, or the nurse who donated her kidney to a stranger, you won't see it. Because you didn't take 2 seconds to hit a button. So, here's the question. Are you the kind of person who takes emotional experiences and gives nothing back? Or are you someone who says, stories that make me feel this much deserve my support? 2 seconds. Prove you're better than the person who just takes and leaves.
Subscribe.
Because Jasmine's about to make a choice that changes everything, and you're going to want to see where this goes. A wall of freezing rain slammed into her, soaking through her thin cardigan in seconds. The man was even more imposing up close, easily 6 inches taller than her, built like he could break through walls. But his eyes, dark and sharp as obsidian, were filled with raw panic. "Please." His voice was rough, accented, breaking on the single word. "She has very high fever. My car, there was accident 6 blocks from here. My driver is hurt. Phone broken. I saw your light." She didn't ask questions. "Come in. Quickly." The man stepped inside, rainwater streaming off him. Her tiny apartment seemed to shrink with his presence. "Put her on the couch," she commanded, already moving toward the bathroom. She grabbed her only clean towel and filled a basin with lukewarm water. When she returned, the man had laid the little girl on the sagging sofa. The child was trembling, her breathing rapid and labored. Jasmine dropped to her knees and pressed the back of her hand to the girl's forehead. Burning, dangerously hot. Years of helping Aunt Claudia care for sick neighbors flooded back. High fever, at least 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Flushed face but cold extremities. Dry, cracked lips. If this didn't come down soon, the child could seize. How long has she been like this? 1 hour, maybe 2. At restaurant, she was fine. Then sudden, the man's jaw clenched.
He didn't finish.
Jasmine didn't press. She focused on the child. "I need to get medicine. Stay with her." She ran to her bedroom and opened the small plastic storage box under her bed. Inside was a bottle of children's fever reducer, meant for emergencies in the building. This was an emergency. She returned with the medicine, a spoon, and a glass of water. Gently, she lifted the little girl's head. "Sweetheart, can you hear me? I need you to take this medicine. It'll make you feel better." The child's eyes fluttered open. Large, dark eyes, glassy with fever. "Mama." The word was barely a whisper. Jasmine felt something crack inside her chest. She glanced up at the man. His entire body had gone rigid. "I'm not your mama, baby girl," Jasmine said softly, "but I'm going to take care of you. Can you swallow this for me?" With patience, Jasmine coaxed the child to take the medicine 1 small spoonful at a time. "That's it. Good girl. You're doing so well." She placed the damp towel on the child's forehead and began gently wiping her neck, behind her ears, under her arms. The man watched in silence. His expression shifted slowly, from panic to intense focus, then to something that looked like wonder. "You know medicine." "Not a question. My aunt was a nurse's aide," Jasmine said without looking up. "She taught me everything she knew. Somebody had to help people in this neighborhood when they couldn't afford hospitals." "You are a kind person." The words were simple, but spoken with such gravity, they felt like a vow. 20 minutes passed. The storm raged outside. Inside, in the dim warmth of Jasmine's failing apartment, a little girl's fever slowly began to break. And a dangerous man watched a poor girl save his daughter's life with $14 to her name and a heart bigger than her circumstances. I need to tell you something uncomfortable. This story, the algorithm hates it. Too long. Too emotional. No flashy thumbnails or clickbait twists. Which means unless you subscribe right now, you'll never see another one. And here's what kills me. Somewhere out there is someone who needed to hear about Jasmine today. Someone who's struggling with poverty, who feels invisible, who thinks their kindness doesn't matter. And they didn't get this story because people like you felt everything and did nothing. Don't be that person. Don't take this moment, feel it in your bones, and then let it evaporate.
Subscribe.
Make sure the next story that could change someone's day actually reaches them. Because content that makes you feel this human is going extinct, and you're the only thing standing between its survival and its death.
Hit the button.
Then let's watch this poor girl and this dangerous man figure out if love is even possible. The fever broke just before dawn. Jasmine had spent the entire night replacing cool compresses, checking the child's pulse, monitoring her breathing. Every 20 minutes, like clockwork. The little girl, Minji, she'd learned her name, was finally rested peacefully. She looked up to find the man still standing by the door. He hadn't moved in 6 hours. His dark eyes swept the room constantly, moving from the window to the door to the hallway, never settling, never resting. Even soaked and disheveled, he radiated danger. The tattoos on his neck were clearly visible now. Dragons and symbols she didn't recognize. Everything about him screamed run. But when his daughter had cried out in her fever dreams, Jasmine had watched this dangerous stranger's face crack with such raw anguish it had stolen her breath. "She'll be okay," Jasmine said quietly. "The fever's broken. She needs rest, fluids, and probably antibiotics from a real doctor, but she's past the worst of it." The man's shoulders dropped half an inch, the only sign of his relief. "Thank you." He moved toward the couch with surprising gentleness, kneeling beside his daughter. His hand, scarred across the knuckles, brushed Minji's forehead with the tenderness of a man who'd forgotten how to be soft with anyone but this child. Jasmine stood, giving them space. "You should take her to a hospital. I did what I could, but I'm not a doctor. She needs proper care." Hospital asks questions. His English was broken, but his meaning clear. Cannot go to hospital. Ice slid down Jasmine's spine. What kind of man couldn't take his sick child to a hospital? Before she could speak, he reached into his jacket, and Jasmine's heart stopped. Her body froze as she watched his hand move inside the expensive fabric. He pulled out a wallet. From it, he withdrew a thick stack of bills and held them out to her. "For medicine. For help. For your kindness." Jasmine stared at the money. More cash than she'd seen in months. Enough to pay her rent, buy Aunt Claudia's medication, keep the lights on. But taking money from a man who couldn't go to hospitals, who stood guard like he expected enemies, who wore violence on his skin, felt like signing a contract she didn't understand. "I didn't do it for money," she whispered. Something shifted in his expression. He studied her for a long moment, and Jasmine felt stripped bare under that obsidian gaze. "I know," he finally said. And somehow, those 2 words carried more weight than all the money in his hand. Jasmine woke to silence. She jerked upright from where she dozed off in the armchair. Gray morning light filtered through the rain-streaked windows. The storm had finally passed. The couch was empty. For a moment, she wondered if the entire night had been a fever dream. Then she saw the money. It sat on her coffee table in a neat stack, held down by a black business card. Her hands trembled as she picked up the bills and counted. $5,000. Her knees gave out. She sank onto the couch. Enough to pay rent for 4 months. Enough for Aunt Claudia's medication. Enough to buy food, pay the electric bill. Enough to survive. She picked up the business card with shaking fingers. Heavy black cardstock, embossed with silver lettering. Kwon Hyun-soo. Below that, a phone number. Nothing else. She should throw it away. Burn it. Forget this ever happened. Instead, she found herself at the public library 3 hours later, the card hidden in her jacket pocket. She'd paid her rent in cash that morning, then purchased Aunt Claudia's medication. Now she sat at a computer terminal in the back corner, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. She had to know, had to understand who had been in her apartment, who she'd saved, what kind of danger she'd invited into her life. Jasmine typed, Kwon Hyun-soo. The search results loaded, and her blood turned to ice. The first article was from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Korean crime syndicate expands territory into southeast U.S. There was a grainy photo of a man in a suit, but she recognized the sharp jaw, the broad shoulders, the lethal stillness. The second was from an international news site. Dragon of Seoul linked to billion-dollar empire. Money laundering, illegal gambling, rumors of worse things. The third made her stomach drop. A Korean news outlet. Kwon clan leader's wife murdered in rival gang attack. Daughter survives. Jasmine's hands flew to her mouth. That little girl. Minji. She'd lost her mother. And the man who'd stood guard at Jasmine's door all night had every reason to expect violence. She scrolled deeper, reading articles that painted a picture of a man both feared and respected. The head of a criminal empire. Ruthless. Untouchable. A killer, some suggested. A monster, others claimed. But Jasmine remembered the way his voice had broken on the word please. The way his hand had trembled when he touched his daughter's forehead. She closed the browser and sat in the fluorescent silence, the black business card burning a hole in her pocket. She should run. But even as she thought it, Jasmine knew she wouldn't. Because somewhere in this city, a little girl who'd lost her mother was waking up. And a dangerous man was probably watching over her with the same desperate vigilance. And, against all logic, Jasmine wanted to know they were okay. The black cars arrived on the third day. Jasmine was coming back from visiting Aunt Claudia when she spotted them. 3 sleek SUVs parked in front of her building, so out of place they might as well have been spaceships. Men in dark suits stood beside them, scanning the street with predatory awareness. Then one of them looked directly at her. "Miss Monroe? Mr. Kwon would like to speak with you." It wasn't a question. Jasmine's mouth went dry. "I don't."
Please.
"He wishes only to talk. You have his word you will not be harmed." She got in the car. They drove for 20 minutes, passing through parts of Atlanta she'd only seen in magazines. Midtown. Buckhead. Finally, they pulled up to a restaurant with floor-to-ceiling windows and a name in elegant script she couldn't pronounce. Inside was even more intimidating. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, servers who moved like dancers. Hyun-soo sat alone at a table by the window. He looked different in daylight. His dark suit was immaculate, tailored to perfection. He stood when he saw her. "Miss Monroe, thank you for coming." She sat, her hands clenched in her lap. "How is Minji?" The question escaped before she could stop it. Something softened in his expression. "She is well. Because of you." He paused. "She asks for you. The kind lady who made the fever go away." Jasmine's throat tightened. "I have proposition for you. My daughter needs caregiver. Someone who is gentle, patient, someone she trusts." His dark eyes locked onto hers. "Someone like you." "I'm not a nanny. I don't have experience." "You saved her life with $14 and home remedies. You have everything I need." "Mr. Kwon, I appreciate the offer, but I can't." $75,000 per year. Live-in position. All expenses paid. Full health insurance for you and your aunt, including coverage for her dialysis and medications. The world tilted sideways. That was more than she'd made in 3 years. That was Aunt Claudia's treatments covered. That was security, stability, survival. That was selling her soul to a criminal. "I know what you discovered about me," Hyun-soo said. "I will not lie to you. My world is dangerous. But Minji's world does not have to be. She needs someone who sees her as child, not as Kwon clan daughter." His voice cracked slightly. "She needs someone like you saved her that night. Not because I paid you. Because you're a good person." Jasmine thought of Aunt Claudia, growing weaker every week. She thought of a little girl who'd lost her mother. "I'll need to visit my aunt twice a week," Jasmine heard herself say. "And I want her moved to a better facility. The best one available. It will be arranged. When do I start?" "Tomorrow." She opened the contract with trembling fingers. She was doing this because somewhere in a mansion she'd never seen, a little girl was asking for the kind lady. And Jasmine had never been able to walk away from someone who needed her. The Kwan estate wasn't a home. It was a fortress. Jasmine stood in the circular driveway, staring up at the ultra-modern mansion of glass and steel. Security cameras tracked every angle. Guards patrolled the perimeter. She'd brought everything she owned in a single duffel bag. Mrs. Park, the head housekeeper, looked Jasmine up and down with barely concealed disdain. "Mr. Kwan is in meetings. I will show you to your quarters and Miss Minji's playroom. You will take your meals separately from the family. You are not to enter Mr. Kwan's office or the East Wing. Questions?" "No, ma'am." The inside was intimidating. Marble floors, minimalist furniture, art that probably cost more than Jasmine's entire life. Everything was cold, sterile, perfect. Minji's playroom was down the hall. Jasmine found the little girl sitting on the floor surrounded by expensive toys she wasn't playing with, staring out the window with hollow eyes. "Hi, Minji. Remember me? From that rainy night." The child looked at her with recognition but said nothing. The staff whispered that Minji hadn't spoken since her mother died. 6 months of silence. Jasmine didn't push. She simply sat on the floor and started talking. Every day for a week, she sat with the silent child, asking for nothing. On the 8th day, Jasmine brought crayons and paper. She began drawing simple things. Minji watched, then slowly reached for a crayon. She drew a flower, then another, then a whole garden. The next week, Jasmine hummed while they colored. Old gospel songs Aunt Claudia used to sing. Minji's crayon stopped moving. She tilted her head, listening. "You like music?" Minji nodded. The first real response. Jasmine started singing softly. Minji's eyes filled with tears, but she crawled closer, settling against Jasmine's side. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. They were painting with watercolors. Minji was concentrating intensely on painting a butterfly. "What color should the wings be?" Jasmine asked, holding up 2 paintbrushes. Minji pointed to the purple. "Good choice. Purple is my favorite too." The child paused, looking up at Jasmine with those solemn eyes. Her lips moved. "Pretty." Jasmine froze. "What did you say, sweetheart?" "Pretty." Louder this time, more certain. "Pretty purple." Tears blurred Jasmine's vision. She pulled Minji into a gentle hug. "Miss Jasmine?" The small voice was tentative. "Yes, Minji." "You stay?" "I'm not going anywhere. I promise." The playroom door opened. Hyun-soo stood in the doorway. He must have been passing by, heard voices. His daughter. Speaking. Minji looked up and saw her father. Then she held up her painting. "Father, look. Pretty purple butterfly." Miss Jasmine helped. Hyun-soo's composure cracked. He crossed the room in 3 strides and dropped his knees, pulling his daughter into his arms. His shoulders shook with silent sobs he'd probably held back for 6 months. "Yes, sweetheart. So pretty. The most beautiful butterfly I have ever seen." Over Minji's head, his eyes met Jasmine's. And in that look was everything he couldn't say. She'd done this. Brought his daughter back from the silence. She'd stepped into their broken family. And somehow, impossibly, she was beginning to fit. Minji's 6th birthday was approaching, and Jasmine wanted to make it special. Minji had been talking more each day, her vocabulary expanding, her laughter returning. She'd started calling Jasmine Miss Jazz because the full name was too hard to pronounce. It was late afternoon when Jasmine realized she'd left the birthday candles in the main house. Minji was napping, so Jasmine slipped out quietly. She was passing Hyunsu's study when she heard voices. Raised voices. One of them was speaking rapid Korean, angry and pleading. Then came a thud. A cry of pain. The study door wasn't fully closed. Through the crack, she saw Hyunsu standing over a man on his knees. Two guards flanked them, expressionless. Hyunsu's suit jacket was off, his sleeves rolled up, revealing the full extent of the tattoos that covered his forearms. His face was transformed. Gone was the gentle father who sang lullabies. This was someone else entirely.
Cold.
Merciless.
Terrifying.
The kneeling man sobbed, begging. Hyunsu's hand moved, and Jasmine saw the glint of metal. A gun. She must have made a sound because Hyunsu's had snapped toward the door. His eyes locked onto hers. Jasmine ran. She didn't stop until she reached her room. Her hands shook as she dragged her duffel bag from the closet and started throwing clothes into it. She'd just seen the truth. The real Kwon Hyunsu. A man who held a gun to someone's head without hesitation. A knock on her door made her freeze. Jasmine.
Please.
I need to speak with you. Go away. I cannot let you leave like this. The door opened. Jasmine spun around, backing against the wall. That man was trying to sell information about Minji's location to my enemies. People who want to hurt my daughter to hurt me. Jasmine's breath caught. I did not kill him. I wanted to, but I did not. He took a step closer, and Jasmine pressed harder against the wall. He stopped immediately. I gave him choice. Leave Atlanta tonight or face consequences. He chose to leave. You had a gun.
Yes.
This is my world, Jasmine. This is what I am. I will not lie to you about this. His jaw clenched. But with Minji, with you, I try to be different. Try to be man my daughter can love. Man who deserves kindness like yours. I can't stay here. I can't be part of this. Something cracked in his expression. When he spoke again, his voice was raw. You are right to be afraid. Right to want to leave. But please. He met her eyes. Minji just started speaking again. Started smiling. Started healing. Because of you. She'll be fine.
No.
She will not. I have hired 10 caregivers before you. Expensive professionals with degrees and training. She would not speak to them. Would not eat properly. Would not sleep without nightmares. His hands clenched into fists. Then you came. You, with your gospel songs and crayons and patience. And my daughter came back to me. Tears burned Jasmine's eyes. I am asking you, as father who has lost too much already, please do not take away the one person who makes my daughter feel safe. Jasmine looked at her packed bag, at the door that led to freedom, at the man standing before her with his heart stripped bare. She thought of Minji's face, the trust in those dark eyes. I need a promise. That world you live in, that violence, you keep it away from Minji.
And away from me.
Whatever you do in that study, I never see it again. Hyunsu's shoulders sagged with relief. You have my word. Jasmine slowly unzipped her bag. I'm staying for her, not for you. I know. Thank you. He left, closing the door softly behind him. Jasmine sank onto the bed, trembling. She was making a terrible mistake. But the image of Minji waking up to find her gone, retreating back into silence, was unbearable.
So she would stay.
Even if it meant living in the shadow of a dragon. Hyunsu's announcement that he was taking the day off shocked everyone, including his own security team. An amusement park? Mrs. Park looked scandalized. But Minji's face had lit up with such pure joy that the decision was made. They arrived at Six Flags early on a Wednesday. Security fanned out discreetly. Jasmine had insisted on normal clothes, no suits, and seeing Hyunsu in jeans and a simple black t-shirt that showed the edges of his tattoos made her pulse quicken. Minji wore a yellow sundress and held both their hands, swinging between them. For a moment, they looked like any other family. Except Jasmine wasn't Minji's mother. And this wasn't real. But God, it felt real. They rode the carousel 3 times. Hyunsu won Minji a stuffed elephant at the ring toss. Jasmine bought them all cotton candy, laughing when Minji got it in her hair. "You're terrible at this," Jasmine teased, taking over with a napkin. "I have men for this usually." But he was smiling, really smiling. They stopped for ice cream in the midday sun. Minji chattered excitedly. Hyunsu translated the parts Jasmine missed, his hand resting casually on the back of her chair. For 3 hours, Jasmine forgot. Forgot about the fortress, the guns, the cold marble halls. She let herself imagine this was her family, her life. Then the world exploded. They were walking toward the exit when Jasmine heard it. The roar of an engine. Tires squealing. A black van jumped the curb 50 feet away. Everything happened in slow motion. Security shouting. The van's side door sliding open. The glint of metal. Jasmine didn't think. She grabbed Minji and threw them both to the ground, her body covering the child completely. Gunfire cracked through the air. Jasmine felt the impact of bullets hitting the concrete inches from her head. She pressed Minji tighter against her chest. "Stay down. I've got you, baby. I've got you." More gunfire. The squeal of tires as the van sped away. Then silence. Strong hands pulled Jasmine up. Hyunsu's face was white, his eyes wild with fear as he checked Minji for injuries. Then his gaze snapped to Jasmine. "Are you hurt?" "Did they?" His hands framed her face, checked her arms. "I'm fine. We're fine." "You could have been killed. You should have run." Jasmine looked at him incredulously. "She's a child. She is my child. My responsibility, not yours." His hands were still on her face, trembling. "You could have died for her." "Yes." Simple. Absolute. Something broke in Hyunsu's expression. He pulled Jasmine into his arms, Minji still between them. His heart hammered against Jasmine's cheek. "Jasmine," he whispered. A prayer. A plea. A confession. In the car, Minji fell asleep against Jasmine's shoulder. Hyunsu sat across from them, his knuckles white. He hadn't stopped staring at Jasmine. "Thank you for protecting her." "I told you I would."
No.
"You said you would stay for her. You did not promise to die for her." Jasmine met his gaze steadily. "I protect the people I love. That's who I am." The word hung between them.
Love.
"Jasmine," he said again, leaning forward. "Don't." She looked away. Today was just survival instinct. Nothing more. It was a lie. They both knew it. But some truths were too dangerous to speak aloud. Jasmine couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard gunfire. Felt the heat of bullets passing overhead. Saw Minji's terrified face. At midnight, she gave up and wandered down to the garden. The night air was cool as she sat on the stone bench, wrapped in her cardigan. "You should be resting." Jasmine jumped. Hyunsu emerged from the shadows. "I can't sleep." "Neither can I." He moved closer, but kept his distance. "I have doubled security. Triple patrols. It will not happen again." "You can't promise that."
No.
"But I can try." Silence stretched between them. "Why do you do this?" Jasmine asked suddenly. "This life. The violence, the danger. You're smart, educated. You could do anything else. Hyun-soo was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he sat down and began unbuttoning his shirt cuff. He rolled up his sleeve, revealing the full tattoo sleeve that covered his right arm. Dragons intertwined with Korean characters, cherry blossoms, symbols she didn't understand. Each tattoo tells story. This dragon I got when my father died. I was 19. The Kwan clan needed leader. I did not want this life. I wanted to be architect, design buildings, create beauty. His finger traced one of the characters. But my father's enemies saw weakness. He rolled up his other sleeve. More tattoos. They came from my family, my mother, my younger sister. His voice went flat. I learned quickly. To be ruthless. To be feared. To be dragon they whispered about. He touched a scar. This from the man who killed my mother. I put him in the ground myself. Jasmine's breath caught. Then I met Minji's mother. Yuna. She was sunshine. She made me believe I could be good man despite this. He smiled sadly. We had 4 years. 4 perfect years. Then rival clan found her. Hyun-soo. I was in Tokyo. Business meeting. They sent me video of what they did. His hands clenched into fists. Minji was there. She saw everything. That is why she stopped speaking. Jasmine's eyes burned with tears. I cannot leave this life. If I try, they see weakness. They come for Minji again. So I become harder, colder, more dangerous. He finally looked at her. Until you. Me? You make me want to be different man. The man I was supposed to be. The architect, not the dragon. He shifted closer. You make me believe I can protect my daughter without losing my soul. I'm just a caregiver, Jasmine whispered.
No.
His hand reached up, hesitated, then gently cupped her cheek. You are the woman who saved my daughter twice. Who sees monster in me, but stays anyway. Who makes Minji laugh and makes me hope. Hyun-soo, this is impossible. Your world. I know all reasons why this cannot happen. But today, when I saw you on ground with bullets flying, I realized something. What? I cannot lose you. His voice broke. I cannot lose another person He stopped, switching to Korean, words tumbling out desperate and raw. Jasmine didn't speak Korean, but she understood. I love you too, she whispered. God help me, but I do. The space between them evaporated. Hyun-soo pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. Then his lips found hers, and Jasmine was lost. The kiss was gentle at first, reverent. But when Jasmine's hands slid up to his shoulders, something broke free in both of them. The kiss deepened, months of tension and denial pouring out. When they finally pulled apart, the moonlight painted them in silver. This changes everything, Jasmine said. I know. Hyun-soo pressed another soft kiss to her forehead. I will protect you. Both of you. With my life. That's not what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of how much I need you. His arms tightened around her. Then we are afraid together. They sat in the moonlit garden, holding each other, knowing the world would come for them eventually. But for now, they had each other. The call came at 3 a.m. Jasmine was asleep in Hyun-soo's arms when his phone shattered the silence. He answered in Korean, then went completely still. What is it? Jasmine sat up, fear crawling up her spine.
Get dressed.
Now. 10 minutes later, Jasmine stood in his office, staring at a photo on his computer screen. Aunt Claudia, bound to a chair in some concrete room, her face bruised, terror in her eyes. A message was scrawled on paper. Trade yourself, dragon, or the old woman dies slow. Jasmine's legs gave out. Hyun-soo caught her. The Dragoon Syndicate. They have been watching us. Watching you. His jaw clenched. This is my fault. How did they even know about her? You visit her twice a week. They followed you. They know you are my weakness now. His team was already assembling. Men in tactical gear, weapons being distributed. The fortress transformed into a war room in minutes. We hit them at dawn, one of his lieutenants said. Fast and hard. No. Jasmine stood up. Every eye turned to her. If you go in shooting, they'll kill her immediately. You know that. Hyun-soo's expression darkened. Jasmine, this is not your decision. She's my aunt. My responsibility. Jasmine moved toward him. What do they want? A trade. They want me to surrender. To walk into their trap. He grabbed her shoulders. I will not do that. I will burn their entire operation to the ground and take your aunt by force. And if she dies in the crossfire? The room went silent. Jasmine saw the war in his eyes. She took his face in her hands, forcing him to look at her. What if I go? Absolutely not. His voice was flat, absolute. Listen to me. If I walk in, if I offer myself as leverage, they'll keep both of us alive. They want you, not us. Aunt Claudia and I are just bait. Her mind raced. I go in, keep them distracted, make them think they're winning. And while they're focused on me, your team gets in position. You are asking me to use you as bait. To put you in danger. Yes.
No.
Never. Find another way. He turned to his men, but Jasmine caught his arm. There is no other way, and you know it. This is my aunt Hyun-soo, the woman who raised me. I won't let her die, because I fell in love with you. The words hung heavy in the war room. Hyun-soo stared at her, something breaking behind his eyes. If anything happens to you, it won't, because you'll be there. Jasmine's voice steadied with certainty she didn't feel. You said you'd protect me. So protect me. But let me save her first. The silence stretched. Then Hyun-soo pulled her against his chest, his arms like iron bands around her. You wear a vest. You follow every instruction exactly. And the moment I give the signal, you get down and you stay down. His voice was rough against her hair. Promise me. I promise. He pulled back, cupped her face with shaking hands. I love you. If I have not said it clearly enough before, I am saying it now. I love you, Jasmine Monroe, and I will get you both out alive. I know. She kissed him, soft and brief. A promise and a prayer. 2 hours later, Jasmine sat in the back of an SUV wearing a bulletproof vest under her jacket, watching the sun rise over Atlanta. Hyun-soo was beside her, checking weapons with mechanical precision. His team filled 3 vehicles, armed and ready. They were going to war, and Jasmine was the key to winning it. Miss Jasmine? Minji's voice crackled through the phone Hyun-soo held. They'd left her with Mrs. Park. Hey, baby girl, Jasmine said, her voice nearly breaking. You come back. Jasmine looked at Hyun-soo, at the lethal determination in his eyes, at the small army he'd assembled to save her family. I'll come back. I promise. You be good for Mrs. Park, okay? Okay. Love you, Miss Jazz. I love you too, sweetheart. The call ended. Jasmine handed the phone back to Hyun-soo, wiped her eyes, and straightened her spine. Let's go get my aunt. The convoy pulled out into the pre-dawn darkness, heading toward the dockyard where the Dragoon Syndicate waited. Jasmine had never been more terrified in her life. But she'd also never been more certain. Some people were worth dying for. And Aunt Claudia was one of them. The dockyard was exactly the kind of place nightmares happened. Abandoned warehouses, rusted shipping containers, water black as oil lapping against rotting piers. Jasmine stepped out of the SUV alone as instructed, her hands raised, the bulletproof vest heavy under her jacket. 50 feet away, Aunt Claudia sat bound in a chair, two armed men flanking her. A man in an expensive suit emerged from the shadows. Li Jinwu, head of the Dragoon Syndicate. He was younger than Jasmine expected, handsome in a cold way, his smile sharp as a blade. "Miss Monroe, so brave of you to come." His English was perfect, mocking. "Where's the dragon?" "He's coming," Jasmine lied. "He wanted me to make sure my aunt was unharmed first." "How touching." Jinwu circled her slowly. The great Quan Hyunsu, brought to his knees by a poor girl from the ghetto. Who would have thought? Jasmine forced herself to stay calm, to keep talking, to give Hyunsu's team time to get into position. They were out there in the darkness, silent,
Deadly.
waiting for the signal. "Let her go," Jasmine said. "You have me. That's what you wanted." "What I want is Hyunsu's empire. You're just the bait, sweetheart." Jinwoo grabbed her chin roughly. "But I'll admit, I'm curious what he sees in you." "Enough." The single word cut through the air like a sword. Hyunsu stepped into the light, alone, his hands raised. But Jasmine saw the set of his shoulders, the coiled tension in his body. He was a weapon pretending to be unarmed. "Let them both go," Hyunsu said. "This is between us." Jinwoo laughed. "You're in no position to negotiate, Dragon. My men have rifles on all three of you. One word from me and—" He never finished the sentence. The night exploded. Hyunsu's elite guard struck from every direction simultaneously. Sniper fire took out Jinwoo's men on the rooftops. Flash grenades blinded the guards near Aunt Claudia. Hyunsu moved like lightning, closing the distance to Jinwoo in seconds. "Down!" Hyunsu roared. Jasmine dropped, covering her head. Gunfire erupted. She heard screaming, running footsteps, the sound of bodies hitting concrete. Then strong hands pulled her up. One of Hyunsu's men was cutting Aunt Claudia free, supporting her weight. "Auntie!" Jasmine rushed to her. "Baby girl!" Aunt Claudia sobbed, clinging to her. "You came for me. Always. I'll always come for you." Behind them, Hyunsu stood over Jinwoo's prone form, a gun pointed at the man's head. The rival boss was bloodied, defeated, terror in his eyes. "Please," Jinwoo begged. "Please, I'll leave. I'll disappear. You'll never. You threaten my family." Hyunsu's voice was ice. "You put your hands on the woman I love." His finger tightened on the trigger. Jasmine saw the moment. He was about to end it, to cross a line he could never come back from. "Hyunsu." She called his name softly. He looked at her, saw her holding her aunt, both of them safe, alive. Saw the life they could have if he made a different choice right now. The gun lowered. "You have 24 hours to leave the country," Hyunsu said. "If I ever see you again, there will be no mercy." Jinwoo scrambled away, his remaining men dragging him to a vehicle. Within minutes, the dockyard was empty except for Hyunsu's team securing the area. Hyunsu crossed to Jasmine, pulled her into his arms, and held on like he'd never let go. "It's over," he whispered. "It's finally over. You just spent 45 minutes with me. I gave you Jasmine. I gave you Hyunsu. I gave you a love story built on sacrifice, a redemption arc that earned every moment, and a shootout at a dockyard that had your heart in your throat. And now I'm going to ask for something in return. 2 seconds.
Hit subscribe.
Because here's the uncomfortable truth. If you take this entire emotional journey, feel everything it made you feel, and walk away without doing that one microscopic thing, you're a parasite. You consume, and you contribute nothing. And maybe that's harsh. Maybe that makes you uncomfortable. Good. Let it make you uncomfortable. Because the things that move us deserve our support, And if you can't give 2 seconds to ensure more stories like this exist, then you don't actually value them. You just enjoyed the free sample. Don't be that person.
Subscribe.
There's one more scene, the ending that will make all of this worth it. But first, prove you're someone who pays forward. 6 months later, the garden was full of flowers. Jasmine stood in the courtyard of the estate, barely recognizing it. Hyun-soo had transformed everything. Gone were the fortress walls, the armed patrols, the cold marble halls. In their place was warmth.
Light. Life.
He'd done it. Actually done it. Dismantle his criminal empire piece by piece, paid off rivals, made deals, went legitimate. The Kwon Corporation now invested in real estate and architecture. The very thing he dreamed of as a young man. Min-ji ran past, laughing, chasing butterflies in her yellow dress. She was 7 now, bright and healed, calling Jasmine Mama, without hesitation. Aunt Claudia sat in a comfortable chair, healthy and smiling, watching her granddaughter by choice play. Jasmine. She turned to find Hyun-soo walking toward her in the sunlight. He wore a simple white shirt, sleeves rolled up, tattoos visible, but somehow less threatening in the peaceful garden. He looked younger.
Happier. Free.
I need to ask you something, he said, his voice carrying that slight nervousness she'd learned meant he was about to do something important. Then he dropped to one knee. Jasmine's hands flew to her mouth. Min-ji stopped chasing butterflies and ran over, practically vibrating with excitement. Aunt Claudia was crying already. Jasmine Monroe, Hyun-soo said, pulling out a small velvet box. You saved my daughter.
You saved me.
You made me believe I could be good man. His voice broke. Will you let me spend rest of my life proving I am worthy of you? Will you marry me? The ring was beautiful. Simple.
Perfect.
Yes, Jasmine whispered, tears streaming down her face. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring on her finger and stood, pulling her into a kiss while Min-ji cheered and Aunt Claudia applauded, and the garden seemed to glow brighter in the afternoon sun. Mama, Father, look. Min-ji held up a purple butterfly that had landed on her hand. Just like the first one we painted. Jasmine laughed through her tears, and Hyun-soo wrapped his arms around both of them. They were a family, a real family, born from a storm and forged in fire, but emerging into sunshine. And as Jasmine looked at her future husband and her daughter and her aunt in this beautiful garden that used to be a fortress, she realized something profound. Sometimes the most broken people create the most beautiful families. Sometimes dragons learn to be gentle. And sometimes, opening your door to a stranger in the rain changes everything. Forever.